by the judge of the living and the dead to depart from the servant of God.
Please, God.
This is God.
And your suffering will be legendary even in hell.
I'm here with the Dadman. We're doing Mount Rushmore of horror villain icons. Here's the deal with the Mount Rushmore, just for those of you who maybe are unfamiliar with the term. You're going to use your own criteria. If it makes sense to you, we'll talk it out so that it makes sense to anyone listening. Obviously, with you, Dadman, I want to hear your disagreements and agreements with my list.
Okay.
As I'm going to give you for yours, and hopefully the listeners give us their takes as well, where we went wrong, where we went right. Let me ask you, do you want me to throw some names out there to begin with?
Throw some names.
And I'll say basically why I didn't choose them, though a lot of these names I feel like are just worth mentioning because they are so popular. People maybe would consider them on their personal list. Here's one. It's not on mine. It's The Thing from John Carpenter's The Thing. What I will say up front, and it might seem counterintuitive to the list, or I guess rather not including The Thing,
Right.
is my basis is less off of franchise success. So maybe you have 10 movies, but that doesn't mean you make the list.
You just made the list!
For me, it's generally going to be one movie success and how iconic they are in that one performance.
I struggle with that too, because I thought of some that I'm like, the first one, the villain was so good that it deserved on the list, but then I let the sequels play into it as well. It's like, how did they perform later? And maybe I shouldn't have done that. So there are some that aren't on my list that would have been had I not had that train of thought where I looked at the sequels and so forth.
Yeah, here's the thing, right? Specific villains are going to be in the zeitgeist because they are just perpetually thrown out there. Having so many movies generally actually doesn't work in their favor because because you're going to have bad movies.
Absolutely.
In the franchise when there's 20 of them.
Right.
And only 2 are probably actually good.
Worthwhile, decent horror movies.
For me, another criteria that came up was you gotta almost be recognized. Like, you gotta have the look. We all know that.
Get the London look.
For me. And The Thing has multiple looks that are all really intriguing, but it doesn't have one distinguishable look.
That's the only thing. See, The Thing is on my list. Partly because I just really liked that movie. And the effects for that day and age were spectacular. I thought they were incredibly good for the day. You know, there was no CGI or anything like that. What they were able to pull off was incredible. But the thing about it was multiple faces, multiple forms. So in my opinion, that made up for not having the one classic, horror villain look.
Yeah.
So I looked at it that way because I thought the same thing. It's like, well, The Thing isn't really any specific thing. It can be anything. But some of them were so grotesque and so intriguing that in my opinion, the fact that I really, really liked that movie, in my opinion, it's a classic. I could watch it today and it's not dated in any way at all. I think it's just a great, and I really like Kurt Russell in a lot of movement, most of the time. So that one, I've always liked that. And that movie's old. And it was a remake. I don't know if you knew that or not. It was a remake.
From like a 50s black and white movie.
Which I never saw that. But, for another thing, for a remake, we look at remakes today and, like nobody seems to be able to remake a movie. But that, in my opinion, for horror, is a classic horror movie.
It's one of my favorite horror movies. And that's why it's hard for me to keep it off the list.
So I understand your criteria. I do.
So what worked for you in terms of it having so many different faces actually detracted for me, because in my mind it's like, okay, what are we putting on the statue? The Mount Rushmore.
What face?
Exactly.
It could be the face of the guy's head with the spider legs.
That's well, that would be the one.
Yeah.
If you had to choose one, that's the one.
Yeah.
And you know, just to your point, like practical effects are king. I mean, there's no doubt about it. It holds up still when they use it. And for example, like I watched Freddy 2, which not the best of the series.
Yeah.
We'll get to that series for sure. I mean, you can't
Right.
have this discussion without bringing up Freddy Krueger. But they had practical effects, and when I tell you, it was freaking insane. Like I was able to enjoy a movie that's like kind of subpar in a lot of other aspects,
Because
but
the effects were so good.
the effects are so good. You're like, I love it.
The effects in one of that, I don't remember two, but anyway, the effects in one, the original, were very good. Mm-hmm. I don't know how they did the blood just exploding from the bed, but that
room rotated.
Yeah, I think I did see that, how they did it. But that was so original. Mm-hmm. And just, when you saw that, it wasn't, for something like that, you could say they did an excessive special effect for effect. But this wasn't. It wasn't. Even though it was extreme, it really fit. It intensified the horror.
Let's parlay this into the first name I will throw into the Mount Rushmore.
Okay.
It is Freddy Krueger.
Okay.
For me, I don't know what it is. I do have a personal bias towards that film. It's just like sentimental.
Right.
Like he's my sentimental favorite. And the rest I think are, ones that I came to appreciate in watching a lot of movies now. Mm-hmm. But I love Freddy Krueger because it was an answer to the slashers of that time period, and let's make him distinct in as many ways as possible. So the way he operates, being in dreams, is really, really, that's so...
Because you can't escape it.
Yeah, it's so cool. Because, like, everyone leaves films, and if it's a really, really scary film for you, you're going to have nightmares.
Yeah.
And the thought that it's like, I'm going to see this guy...
in my nightmares.
Yeah.
And I can't get rid of it. I can't. Well, you know what? I wrote him down, and in the first one, and I should watch the second one again, because I don't remember it. Or I will once I watch it. But the first one was incredible. It was incredible. He was evil. Mm-hmm. And he is, like the enemy of mankind in that movie.
Right.
He enjoys other people's pain and fear. He deserves to be there for sure. Now he
has the look too, which is
absolutely. Yes.
That's big for
Burned
me
face,
personally.
Yes, perfect.
Like for the Mount Rushmore, the look is almost equal as like you have a quality film.
Yes.
Cuz like I said for The Thing, like in all honesty, The Thing is better than Nightmare on Elm Street. Now, you can argue I'm sentimentally charged towards Nightmare on Elm Street, but
as far as films though, especially for a horror film, Nightmare on Elm Street was very good. to me, The Thing is a classic. Okay, so that's up in rarefied air. But for a horror film, and you're right, the concepts, the being attacked in your dreams, you can't sleep. They made up that little 1, 2
nursery
phrases coming
rhyme.
for you. Yeah, it just in very excellent. As far as classic, or far as horror, that's a classic horror movie.
And the performance was really good. That ties, so that's like a lesser criteria, but if the performance is good, whether it's, all physicality or delivery of lines, and they have to be evil too, for me. Like they have to have a sense of foreboding, menace, something, where it's like, they're more so just vile, despicable,
Yes.
Type of
Yes.
of evil that they have to be scary on like as a person, as stupid
The
as that sounds.
antithesis of good.
Right.
Antithesis, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Of good. And he is.
Yeah, that film it's a hallmark for Halloween, and great performance, great makeup, and the lines that he delivers, especially in the first. Now he becomes more of like a Joker. Yeah, caricature is the best way to put it. But he says some shit in one that is like it cuts to the bone, I think, where it just gets right to the heart of like.
Yeah, it's they're like, yeah, he's you're right. The sayings are very good, and then like in later films that became like somewhat like darkly comical, but in the first one they're just menacing.
Mm-hmm. So let me throw it to you. Do you want to say one that's on your Mount Rushmore now, and then
Sure. Well, I did mention one, but okay, I'm not going to talk about the thing because we kind of did. To me, Regan from, or what's the demon's name?
Pazuzu. So I also have Pazuzu.
Yeah. So, yeah.
You get the look because not only do you see the face of Pazuzu, but you see Regan, which gives it some like. But
duality or whatever.
If I were to put on the Mount Rushmore, it would be Regan's face.
Absolutely. Well, didn't you say? I think you said, or either that or I read it, where they were going to use the demon's face for Regan, as opposed to the one that they did.
Right.
And then they're like, it didn't seem to work. So they're like, well, what? And it's rotting flesh is like the motif, I guess, if you want to say like what the inspiration was. So it's disturbingly evil and ugly, and it's a 12-year-old girl who's just being completely consumed by.
The more I talk about this film, the more I like it. Because, like you said, it's like that should be scary. The word desecration of youth might not be the right phrase, but that's
Innocence.
the way. Yeah, the desecration of innocence.
Because she was, and they built that character prior, and sometimes horror movies don't do that, where they don't build the characters prior. In this case, they had to. I'm glad they did. They did, and it was in a very good way. That she was, playful and, loving and innocent and so forth. And then she comes walking down the stairs at the end of a dinner party and pisses on the floor.
Yeah.
That was when everything turned, okay? From that point on, the lightness started to turn gray, and then we were in for the remainder of, the film, which is the battle of good versus evil.
Yeah. And not to harken on it too much, we've talked about this in detail.
Yeah.
And it's a great video. Definitely, if you're a fan of that movie, definitely check it out.
Yeah.
But you kind of brought up another, a theme plot line of the movie, and it covers a lot of things super well. Like you said, good versus evil, it does almost unmatched. I don't know if there's any other film that, like, the black and white of good and evil and does it really well. And then you get religion versus science, that's Father Karras' story. That's really done.
His struggle.
Yeah,
he's got to
struggle with faith, which is such a, it can be, if you don't do that right, it comes off really, really cheesy, and no one wants to watch that.
Yeah.
But, like with Innocence, too, I think as a parent, and I can't speak from personal experience to this, but I think anyone can understand, there's always that fear that you could be sending your children into situations, or like as they grow up, that maybe they're not prepared for.
Yeah.
And that is at the heart of what this story is at the beginning, where there's a potential sickness. They don't know what the hell's wrong with her.
Yeah.
She has to go through all these procedures that you wouldn't want your kid to go through.
They did a spinal tap, which I know is supposed to be like
These go to 11.
terrible, and then some other brain. Yeah, you're right there, and they
I think they like put a catheter into a vein in her neck too.
Yeah.
Which like,
I mean, they looked at every. They looked at every. Well, they analyzed the brain at that current level of technology, and then there's the frustration of the doctors have no idea, and they're putting on their most professional face when they're explaining to Regan's mother, and Regan's mother is just like, can't you? She just loses her mind.
Did you see her or not? She's acting like she's fucking out of her mind, psychotic, like a split personality or...
Which you could identify with. It's like you're telling me nothing. You just telling me nonsense, and I don't know what's wrong with her. And she cannot believe that there is not some way they can figure it out, but they obviously can't. And in her supreme desperation, she's not religious, I don't believe. She sure doesn't appear to be. Reaches out to the church. There's a subplot of the father, which is another. I may have mentioned this before, that it has nothing to do with the main theme of the movie, but that's real life. Do you know what I mean? Because a lot of movies, everything is geared towards the central plot. Everything. This isn't. The father being absent and not calling his daughter on her birthday has nothing to do with it at all. Or if so, just so remotely.
But I think you can find meaning in that. That's
there could be, but it's far enough away where it's not
directly
contrived.
Yeah. Well, and for a supernatural film to be that grounded, it's just insane.
I mean, someone could be saying, "Well, what this? It's like it's real life.
Yeah,
this is a real girl. This is a real mother. Not everything has to do with what's going on with Regan."
So just to let's get the what do you call it? The extract, the puree, why it should be on the Mount Rushmore. You got the look. It's pure evil. What other criteria went through your mind? The movie being good, obviously.
Yeah, movie being good.
I kind of like it because it does fit into a monster, kind of. I like when you get that human monster kind of crossover because it fits multiple lanes as far as, because the Mount Rushmore of itself, they put this president up because they industrialization, and this one because of the expansion of territory, whatever.
Right.
I don't know U.S. history.
Obviously.
But they had specific reasons. I see. Because
none of those are true, but okay.
Demons are at our hearts, and maybe just because of this film, something that is terrifying. And
demons are the enemy of man.
Right.
They despise.
And they nailed it, man.
Demons don't technically live. They want life, and they would like to possess life, but they don't technically. Because I've watched a lot of, I've heard a lot, of people, they talk about demons or whatever, and I'm not like an expert, but in my understanding of it, that they're not, they're not alive. They're entities, but they want to, they despise humanity, because humanity is God's
gift.
Chosen.
Gift
And chosen. So the opposite of that is Satan's creation, which is anti-human, the opposite of a human.
I think going through the ones that I don't pick might help inform why I do pick the ones that I do pick. So we'll run through a few because I didn't expect us to get so many choices as of now, but that's no worries whatsoever. Jack Torrance didn't choose, okay? And he very well could have been, but it came down to the look again. Because Shining, one of arguably the greatest. For a long time, I thought The Shining was the greatest horror movie of all time. And it's my number 2, Exorcist being number 1. He has that it factor. Yeah. He just doesn't quite have the look. I mean, I know when he busts his face through that door, And when he's threatening Shelley Duvall, he's menacing and he's scary and he's not purely evil, but he is evil in those moments. He just doesn't have the look to seal the deal for me. He was really close. Thought about having him be in my fourth, but I didn't add him because it was just the look, yeah. What are your thoughts?
I had him on mine.
No shit.
I'm not kidding. I'll show you.
Okay,
I circled him.
Okay.
No,
this is hilarious. I'm sorry.
I think a lot of ours will share some and some will be, I didn't consider this and I have it. Yeah, he doesn't have, it's a different, it's in the look of hate and insanity in a human.
I could see because I was so freaking close. He does cover that human aspect. I have someone else who kind of, it's like same as Regan / Pazuzu, where it is taking this pure form and just utterly the emaciated, the tormented, disturbed, twisted version of it.
Mm-hmm. Okay, yeah.
And Torrence has that covered as well.
But I hear, it depends on how important you wanted to make certain criteria. And in mine, just because it's a Stanley Kubrick film from a Stephen King novel with Jack Nicholson.
The holy trinity of horror.
So, and
I get it, man. It's one of the best ever.
Yeah. I read the book, and when you read the book, I don't like to be one of those, I read the book type of guys, but I used to read a lot of Stephen King, and it is good to know some background because they show some scenes where you're like, I have no idea what that was about. Like, there's one where he looks in a door and there's somebody dressed like a walrus or something, or it's just bizarre. Yeah. And I mean, then you when you know what it is, like what it was from or what it signifies,
Well, let me throw some spitball. What my interpretation of the film was. There is some Native American tapestry to it, and I think it is all feeding towards. There's an interpretation that this is about alcoholism, and that's where the picture at the end is supposed to play a role. Mm-hmm. That there is a hereditary nature a lot of times to addiction, and that it does
That's interesting.
Have a cyclical nature to it.
Yeah, because his father. Well, you don't know this, but his father was a abusive alcoholic.
Which I didn't know that, but
yeah, and like one time even in the book where his father hit his mother really hard with something in the head when he was drunk. And
it's not a good thing to do.
It's
just
considered bad, even in the movie.
Yeah.
I mean, the place is incredibly haunted.
Mm-hmm.
In reading there's room 223,
or 237, I think.
You could be right. Yeah.
You're either right or I'm right.
Yeah. One of the two. I'll look it up. But anyway, there's that room, but it's completely just haunted.
Yeah.
And I think it's, in my opinion, I would consider it cursed. And maybe it's cursed because of the Native American.
Yeah.
Or genocide happened, or not a genocide, but a massacre happened there or something. Something in the past just poisoned the soil and, of the area and nothing but evil, resides there.
I mean, I like The Shining so much because it reads as deep as The Exorcist upon watching. Yeah. There's so many different avenues you can explore. You can find meaning in a lot of different scenes and just explore like, well, what the heck was, like you said, that walrus? What is that supposed to mean?
Yeah.
And yeah, man, I really like it. And Torrence obviously is one of the best acting performances in a horror film ever. Just didn't have the look for me, but he's borderline,
So hit me with another one there, Chief.
Alrighty. And I feel like I'm going to frickin' say another one that made your Mount Rushmore, and this is not intentional. I have Pinhead as one that was close, but no cigar. For me, he has the look. What it actually, this is the first one that came down to the film, you could choose 1 or 2. I personally think I like 2 a little bit more than 1. People are going to say that I'm ridiculous for that.
217 is
the room number. Mm-hmm. So we were both wrong, I think. What I'm going to say...
I thought it was 237 after you said it. But go ahead with Pinhead.
I don't think 1 or 2 are quite good enough.
No, I agree. I agree. They have not
made the right.
Right.
They got the right guy, though.
They got the right guy, no question, no question. Although at this time he's probably he's 75 years old.
I don't think
he did this thing. He would do this snarl look with his lip, and he detested humans and loved their suffering.
Yeah.
But do you know what the life form was called? Do you remember how?
Cenobites.
Okay, you do remember. All right. Yeah, I mean, it went cheesy. I don't know, maybe in the third one, I'm like, oh my God, this is bad. It was just, it's like, look, if we want to go low-end horror, make some money, let's make this and throw him in there.
And
we'll get
3,
other ones like him.
From what I've seen, and I haven't watched the movies, but I've seen reviews, 3 is nowhere near the bottom of the barrel. It gets worse.
I actually did think I saw one that was further down, and I'm like...
And then they get because the guy who plays Pinhead at a certain point was like, I'm not
associating myself.
Yeah, this sucks.
Yeah,
and I don't want anything to do with it. And
they could find a replacement. They did. I did see
the newest with the female,
the one that was done 4 years ago.
Yeah, I think it was 2022. So it was more recent than that.
Oh, yeah, that sounds right. Yeah. Well, they made one without him, and it was a reboot or remake. I don't know what the fuck it was, but
you're good.
And I saw the guy, and he's like, it's not that bad. But you could find somebody. I mean, granted, that guy is probably, like I say, in his 70s now. So if you want to continue any portion of that franchise, you got to find somebody, who's younger.
Yeah.
You could find somebody who looks good as Pinhead. It doesn't. People don't even care.
You do have to put some thought into it, and this guy
Absolutely.
hasn't made it. Art the Clown. I really like the Terrifier series because that guy who plays him is so good. You got to have someone who has. There has to be.
Well, he's like
something
a mime.
to make. Yeah, but he has such good physical energy. For people to be like, that's my favorite part, and you don't say any lines, you gotta bring something to the table.
Yeah, granted. He's in a laundromat, I know that. Mm-hmm. Well, that's Terrifier 2, I think, right?
Yeah.
That's with the little girl.
Yeah.
Who, they created a second great villain in that series.
Yeah.
Because she is disturbing to look at.
So yeah, Pinhead, definitely, he has the look, he has... that as far as character details,
just in terrible movies.
Yeah, I mean the 1 and 2 are good. Sorry, rather is what I mean, but just not at the level of
2. They had something there. 1 was made on a shoestring. Right, I know that. I mean, Clive Barker, I don't know, $800,000 decided to rent a house and make a horror movie.
Yeah,
and there was a lot of buzz for it and stuff, and it probably made 100 times the initial investment.
Yeah,
but it wasn't high quality. I mean, it was really good because you had the uncle who was really perverted, and you had the innocent girl.
And you got that wife who's a total bitch.
Oh my God, she's good at that. She just comes off as the most evil stepmother on earth. She just menacing and very good.
All right, I'm gonna go through another one. This one wasn't even necessarily close for me. Just Carrie. She's not really in the
pantheon.
Yeah, I think it's because she's not even necessarily evil. It's more understandable. Why she does what she does. Yeah, exactly.
It's get him, Carrie.
Next one, Norman Bates, it's a great movie. Psycho is obviously one that has withstood the test of time pretty damn well.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because you got some that I'm not gonna get there yet. But you know, Black and White that is something you have to overcome nowadays for people to still enjoy your film.
Yeah.
But doesn't have the look. He is evil to an extent, you know.
Oh,
Crazy,
he's evil.
yeah.
I mean, the body count's pretty low and all, but
yeah, he's closer though than Carrie, but just he doesn't have the look. And
did you ever see the still frame of him after he's arrested? They superimpose a skull.
Oh, I think I might have.
It is kind of cool, but that's pretty what I'd call weak sauce for today's audience.
Yeah,
I mean that's like the only thing where he's got that look where he's like looking down and but to me that's an old movie, but
it just doesn't. I don't know. It doesn't scream horror to me. The look that is, and I keep I know I think I'm weighting that too much, the look of the character, but I don't know. I'm trying to justify the people who solidify it for me like almost after the fact, and it's tough for me to put it into words. It's something about his mystique. It is interesting because you think it's the mother, and it turns out he's got split personality.
Yeah.
It is interesting. I could see an argument for it. There's other people that have more iconography with.
Well, let's get to some.
You want to get to another one that. Well, let's run through more of the ones that I'm not choosing. Xenomorph, didn't choose. Aliens is good. Alien is good.
Didn't have the look, huh?
The look is interesting. But that film is, even the first one was just more interesting to me than scary.
Yeah. I mean, there was suspenseful, not, I guess, a true horror movie, though.
Same with Psycho, I'm going to say. I mean, it's not sci-fi, obviously.
I would say that's a horror movie, suspense horror.
Yeah. I mean, they both... I'm not going to say they're both not horror.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just going to say, like... I don't know. I'm kind of burying myself here. It's hard for me to explain. But Xenomorph didn't make the list for me.
That made the list for me.
No shit, really? Yeah. Oh my god, okay.
I just wrote it Alien.
Explain why you have it on. For me, it was like a close, because it is iconic.
It's iconic. It's a great movie. It's the look. I mean, the Xenomorph is like the Terminator.
Yeah.
Which I never even thought of the Terminator, but it just pursues you. There's no nuance. It's a predator.
Yeah.
It wants to kill you.
Maybe that's part of why I didn't include it, but I do think it is interesting to have that on the 4, because again, it covers a different sort of villain.
Yeah.
So I do appreciate that. I think that's
believable monster.
Yeah. I like that inclusion for you. So I think at the end your list might cover more bases than mine, but
I only have I want to get to one that, because I love this movie. And
Mt Rushmore is only 4, right?
I do know that.
Okay.
Are you sure? Yeah, I'm good. I heard they're going to put Biden on it, though. They're going to move it. Did you know that?
I might have heard.
I'm kidding. People were kidding around about it. Or not kidding. They were serious. The Evil Dead, the remake, not the one with Bruce Campbell, but the first remake where they find the book in the basement of the cabin and the woman is recovering from drug addiction. Oh, my God.
Yeah.
That is the scariest human I've ever seen. And the insane... Well, I mean, the whole movie is incredibly graphic. But at the end, we get to see the manifestation of the evil from the book.
See,
But who was that character prior to being possessed? Was
I
it one
don't
of them?
remember her name. She was like
Just
the
one of the
sister
friends?
of one.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, so for me, the Evil Dead characters come to mind. It's just there's so many that get possessed. Because the evil encompasses many people.
Yeah.
So that detracted actually for me.
Well, the one that they had locked in the basement
Was the creepiest, crawliest,
Yeah.
little gangly sucker.
Yeah.
I think that is her name after she becomes possessed. That's what they refer to her as in the movie.
What?
The creepy, crawly, gangly sucker.
They don't, and it'd be stupid if they did.
So I see your point. I do feel as though if I were to make one counter, I do think that Regan kind of covers that base. I don't think
Very similar.
that Evil Dead girl brings anything to the table that Regan doesn't, just personally.
Well,
You do get the motif of drug addiction and how that theme plays out, which is interesting. I really like that about that film.
she was physically active as opposed to. I mean, they looked a lot alike. I will give you that. That look is works.
The London look.
Yeah. I just like that movie a lot.
No, I get it.
like the concept.
Because I
The
included...
beginning, where they show the origins of, and they burn a woman on a post in
Yeah.
the house and stuff like that.
It's a dope movie. I do like it. I do like it for sure. Pennywise, I didn't include. He has the look. The films...
How long is your did not include list?
It's pretty long. I think there's like 20.
So if we were to do the Mount Rushmore quarterbacks, you'd have the top 50.
No, these are guys I don't include, but
I know that.
It's worth mentioning because they're going to get brought up in the comments. If people watch this, they're going to be like, what about Pennywise? What about...
Oh, yeah, that's a good point. I never thought of that.
He would make the 21st century, whatchamacallit, Mount Rushmore for me. But not...
Yeah.
Not all time.
To be honest, though, the first one, I thought he was better.
I'll have to watch that.
Name's Tim Curry. He was very good. Yeah.
And I know people are going to hate the fact that I haven't watched it yet. I will watch it.
And it's just the same with the remake and the original. Part 1 was great. Part 2 was dumb.
So.
It's that's from a Stephen King book too, right? So the second part, it was an alien or something that comes down to Earth and every so often makes himself into a clown, but he's really, I don't know, some other kind of physical. But that part ruined it. It should have been some other, being, not like a alien that. It's almost like an alien locust, that comes out every 20-some years or whatever, and then goes back to sleep. But
right.
Go ahead.
Shout out to Jeepers Creepers.
Oh, that's a good one, too.
Hannibal Lecter was borderline for me. If you're to put... You picked a normal person, right?
Yeah. Jack
Torrance. Hannibal Lecter, man, is really close. The film itself, though, you can argue whether it's horror or not. That played a factor because it was like razor thin. He was like my fifth or sixth, arguing between my fourth. Fourth just barely made it. I mean, it was tight race. But he's got the look with that mask. He is borderline superhuman, and he just plays with people.
Yeah. I
like him. He's like just so cunning. Has those human characteristics and superhuman characteristics that just, I mean, he makes that freaking movie. Without him, that's a decent movie. With him, it's a masterpiece.
Yeah. And
I think he's evil. But he made cannibalism, I think, genuinely popular and terrifying because you think of tribes out in the middle of
nowhere.
Yeah, Timbuktu, where it's like I'm not going to run into them. And then it's an intellectual
Yeah.
who surveys your
Who's,
brain.
Serving it to his guests.
Yeah. So that twist was really, really cool. Jigsaw didn't make it for me. Has the look in the form of that little clown thing and iconic lines. I just think the movies aren't quite at the level. It's kind of the same as a Pinhead deal for me. It's just
Not as low, but I understand. Yeah.
Chucky,
No.
iconic, but
No.
just,
No.
I would kick the shit out of that doll.
Yeah.
Ghostface, here's another one. Has the look, but it keeps like
How
it's
long
a
is your did
it's
not
a
make the
mantle.
list
We're getting
list?
through it. We're getting through it. We're just speeding through it now. Ghostface has the look, but it keeps switching the mantle from person to person, so that played a factor against it. Jaws, I know it made the sea terrifying, but
Not a horror.
we're all scared of sharks, but I don't even care if you have a name.
Yeah.
Doesn't make you that special. These next two, you have to mention just because they paved the road.
Mm-hmm.
Dracula and Frankenstein.
Yeah.
But they didn't make my list.
Yeah. I
But
wonder how good Nosferatu's going to be.
I think it's going to kick ass, man. I really like
I hope
Robert
they
Eggers.
do it well. I mean, think about, this is a remake. When was the original? 100 years
1922.
ago?
Yeah, over. But yeah, I think we all get, like, I've seen Dracula, I've seen Frankenstein, I've seen Nosferatu. They are iconic. The look is amazing. There's a reason there's been
the original meaning of Nosferatu? Was it about?
of the name.
No.
It's about Jewish people.
Yeah, that they felt that,
They brought plagues where they went.
and they, sucked the life out of a society.
And we support the Jewish people, so
We can't like Nosferatu now.
yeah. Well, we'll dislike the original and like the
We
remake.
could do that. That's not anti-Semitism if we do it that way.
Yeah. So we got all our ducks
Old
in a
one
row.
bad, good one new.
Okay, and
New
then
one good.
this is another one where I was like, I'm not putting it on the list, but it's so close because of how iconic it is. I think, let me just ask you.
Is this your last not list?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, because we hit two of on my list, so I only have two more after this.
Okay.
If I ask you, name some horror villains for me.
Godzilla. Not him, huh? King Kong.
Jason Voorhees. I think would
Yeah,
come
I
up.
put him on my do not like list.
The movies aren't good enough. And I haven't watched all of the ones in the series, but I've watched 1, 2, and 3 and Jason versus Freddy, and he has the look, he has the interesting backstory, but you have to have a movie that's great. And I haven't seen it so far.
The movie's not bad. I mean, he's not even technically a character in the first one.
Except for the end
Very
scene.
ending. And you don't even know if that's real or not. Yeah.
Is it real?
But then he's let's make him come alive and put a hockey mask on.
And I don't say this word lightly, but him just being a man baby does not work to his favor either.
Well, you don't know that because you can't see his face.
When in the second one they do,
Oh, do they?
they really paint him as such. But in the I think they move away from that, so I'm not going to hold it against them. But you got to have a good movie. That's where it comes down to.
Yeah.
Okay, so we mentioned Freddy Krueger, we mentioned Pazuzu. We went through all 4 of yours already, right? That made the list. 2 more, Michael Myers.
Sell me, baby.
Michael Myers. Halloween is good as fuck. Love it.
Very, very good.
And
I know I've asked you this, but do you know what the mask he wears? Who it's a mask of?
yeah, it's the Star Trek guy,
William Shatner.
William Shatner. I've been compared to him on my channel because I take a lot of dramatic pauses, but not because I'm trying to be dramatic, but I can't read.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
People say I look like Gordon Ramsay.
I think that's a compliment.
Kids from school, they call me that.
They don't know that your cooking isn't quite that level.
My cooking isn't as good as his, but it's not bad. So.
But Michael Myers, I think
I could see
embodies
that.
something.
The thing is, the second one, they just screwed it up so bad. It was so bad.
One movie.
I agree.
Sticking to the first one.
Yeah,
you know,
and I don't even mind that after he got shot 100 times and fell out of a second-story window.
That makes it really interesting,
It does. It does.
It's
Absolutely.
mysticism. That's the it factor that some of the other guys, like, that's what I've been trying to say. Like, Jack Torrance, he actually kind of does have it, so I just have to say it's the look. But Michael's got the look, he's got the it factor, and it's like, what is he?
Killing machine. To be honest, Rob Zombie's version of... What's the name of the movie? I can't remember. Halloween. First one really developed Michael Myers, and the parts of it were, like, not great. But his personality and his mother and better. It really did. Because, like, his mother was a... exotic dancer. So, in school he was a real misfit, and but anyway, I liked how Rob Zombie did the development.
I think he stripped a little bit of the mysticism away, though.
Possibly, yeah.
Yeah. There's not a lot to say about Michael Myers because he's a silent, unstoppable force, killing machine.
The best part is, like, when they show up at the house at the very beginning after he kills his sister, he's just sitting there, and it's like he doesn't know what happened.
Yeah.
And his parent, like, what did you do?
Uh-huh.
And, I mean, that's so scary because you're thinking, this 8-year-old is psychotic.
It's almost like he's an empty vessel. Like,
yes.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, like, why'd you kill him? Why not? You know what I mean? Whatever.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Which would be the scariest answer.
Yeah.
You're like, yeah. I think that's a good enough sales pitch for him. I feel compelled to say more, but I can't. The last one is Leatherface for me. And that's the one that was that was a backdoor goal, for lack of a better term, where it's like, wasn't sure, there was a ton of competition that easily could have usurped it, but it stuck around for my 4th spot.
No, I would agree with that.
Because I just feel
I didn't even think of Leatherface. Boy, they've gone through a lot of ups and downs with that.
But the
character.
first one really stands the test of time.
It's just raw.
Yeah, that's the best way to put it. Everything about that film feels like it's something you shouldn't be watching.
Yeah, it's like a snuff film.
It really does, yeah.
It's just so...
The production value seems, and because it was,
horror. I mean,
the director didn't have,
But it worked
I need
in
you
his
to
favor.
do this for... I know. It is a case of just like this magical concoction somehow works. Because that film could have been such a C shit film.
Oh, yeah, like Planet 9 or something.
But having that mask, he feels like he is a prototype for what is to come from the slasher. And there is some conflict on my list having Myers and Leatherface because they do...
That just the fact they wear masks doesn't...
Yeah.
I mean, you don't have to... Everyone doesn't have to have their own fucking complete, sphere where it doesn't, where it doesn't overlap another of your picks. He... Like, when he comes out at the end and he's swinging that thing around, and he's built like he's fat, and he's like this, and his hair's all messed up, and just complete insanity. And then, that part of the film, isn't like gory or anything, but it to me, it's like, that's iconic. You know what I mean? When he's just swinging that thing around.
It's a great movie ending.
I don't completely remember it. And to be honest, there's some remakes of that were excellent too. Very good. I mean, not the same. There's the one. Remember that guy who played the army sergeant in Full Metal Jacket?
Sergeant. Oh, Arlie Emery?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, he's in one of them.
Uh-huh.
And he is...
yeah.
He plays a cop.
Yeah.
And he's
Jessica Biel's
disturbing.
Jessica
Biel's is in it, yes. And he's he could play a really good, hateful character.
Yeah.
Really in that one. I mean, he's not an actor. You know that, right? He was in the Marines.
Yeah.
And they brought him in for Full Metal Jacket to be...
as a consultant, and then he was telling the guy what to say.
Yeah.
And the lines were so good that Kubrick's like, let's try it with you, and like...
that was it.
Made magic.
I mean, he was in Seven. I don't know if he's been in a lot of things, but the guy can act.
Yeah.
Remember him even it was a small role, but he just was good. He's just so believable. It's like he's the character that he's playing.
And to my what I'm going to say is, in my defense, I do feel as though Leatherface and Michael Myers do represent two sides of the same coin, because Michael Myers is like this calm. He's like the calm of the storm when it comes to insanity, and Leatherface is the storm.
No, I agree.
He's because
they're different. I mean, just the fact that they both wear masks. I mean, Terrifier technically wears a mask.
Yeah.
But
so if you say that in the comments, think again.
Yeah, don't waste your time. Don't waste our time. It's more important.
Yeah.
But comment. Try to prove me wrong. No one has done it yet.
I do want to hear everyone, because I think there's so many diverse.
Yeah. There's ones that we I
didn't even mention that could have made
there's
it.
probably a zombie.
Like you said, Seven, and like
that
John Doe could very well be. It's just and it would have made sense to get a human on the list, whether it be Jack Torrance. That's why I like that he's on your list. I actually do really like your list, just for that.
Yeah.
Because I do feel like he is representative of something.
A different type of,
a
different face of horror.
Exactly. But
as opposed to a prototypical monster in a horror movie. Like a Frankenstein.
But that's why I like Leatherface, because he is the evolution of monster movies in my mind. And that's why that film is so integral to horror history. Because you went from Dracula, you went from Frankenstein to here's a human whose upbringing is so demented and messed up that this guy is subhuman now. Or not subhuman.
No,
you know what I mean?
Subhuman for sure.
Yeah, he's animalistic. He shares more in common with something living in the wild, than a human.
And more...
And Myers...
More sadistic than an animal.
He does have animal-like qualities, though, because I don't know, like, you never... Well, I guess at the end you do get the sense that he does actually want them to suffer, whether it be psychological or physically.
Yeah.
When he's swinging that chainsaw, I think it's because he just really, really likes it on a freaking lizard brain part. And Michael Myers is just devoid of sanity.
Yes. That's very well said. He's, and humanity.
Exactly, yeah.
He's
complete
not,
empty vessel.
Beyond that, though, I mean, an empty vessel as far as a human would be.
Mm-hmm.
But he is a predator.
Yeah.
Like Leatherface is a predator. Michael Myers is a predator. Well, most are, in different ways, whether they be sophisticated or, subhuman.
Yeah. Myers and Leatherface less sophisticated. Pazuzu a little bit more sophisticated, and then Freddy a little more sophisticated. I don't know. That's my 4. Your 4. Go ahead and restate it.
Evil Dead, Jack Torrance. I only got 4, so Regan or Pinhead. I don't know. I'd have to go Regan if I got to pick one.
Yeah, I'd go Regan too.
But you know how I feel about Pinhead. It hasn't happened yet. It hasn't happened. Someone will figure out how to make that. Unfortunately, he's been exposed so much through so many movies that kind of takes away from, the fact the first time you see Pinhead and his motivations and so forth. But it may not matter if the right person makes that movie and does it correctly. Because it can be done. He's the priest of hell. He's the priest of hell. I told you I read a book by Clive Barker, and it's within that mythology of him.
Scarlet
Gospels, I think is what it's called.
I started to read that. I should finish it.
Oh, you have it?
On my phone, yeah.
Oh, okay. Because I lost mine at an airport or something. But, it's exquisite. But, and that's the one they should make. It's the one they should make. Because there is scenes in that movie that would be just mind-blowing.
I agree. I think it would be really good. We are lucky that we got 1 and 2. I will say that 1 and 2 are very good, but I think you are dead on the money that the source material could create something that is masterful. It just takes the right director.
Well, they have the book to do it. If they really wanted to do it, they could change it in some ways, perhaps. But, it's a group of people that are able to enter hell in order to retrieve one of their friends. Mm-hmm. And in that hell, Pinhead is trying to become Satan. Mm-hmm. And it's just a lot of, I'm not going to talk about the whole thing, but, just envisioning hell, something that, you could get a lot of mileage out of, in the horror, pain.
Macabre imagery.
Yeah.
Which I'm a big fan of. It is always really fun to talk horror with you. We're going to be doing this again. We're going to come up with another subject, but let us know where you disagree with us down below, what your Mount Rushmore would be.
There is no, right answer, obviously, and we want engagement because I assume if you're listening to this, you're huge horror fan, and we're a special breed, I think.
Yeah, we really like horror.
Yeah, that, bring on your, and you could, anything you say, it's like, wow, that's stupid, or what about this, whatever, it doesn't matter, we agree. We're all in the same club, you know what I mean? We're special people who love just...
We get it. A lot of people don't get it.
Yeah, they don't. And I'm not real smart, but I will tell you, when I was in 5th grade, they thought I was smart, and I was in a gifted class. I literally wrote a term paper. I don't know why they thought I could do this, but it was on the occult. It just tells you the depth of my love of all things horror.
Yeah. And when I was in 5th grade, they had to send a special bus to my house, so
yeah,
that's how smart I was.
Yeah, you were smart.
All right, everybody. Thank you for joining us.
Peace.
We will catch you on the Flippity Floop.